Touch her again and I'll bury you where no one will ever find you. Gabriel Russo didn't raise his voice when he said it. He didn't have to. At 11:47 on a storm-soaked Chicago night, Ava Collins stood trapped against a filing cabinet, her supervisor's fingerprints burning red around her wrist, while the man everyone in the city feared stepped out of the darkness. Ava had spent years learning how to stay quiet, keep her job, pay the bills, and survive men who mistook silence for permission. But that night everything changed. Because this isn't just a story about a mafia boss protecting a woman. It's about power boundaries, fear, and the moment a woman finally stops making herself small to survive. Stay with me to the end. And before we begin, like the video and comment where you're watching from tonight. 6 weeks earlier, Ava Collins had not yet learned what Gabriel Russo looked like when he was angry. Back then, the most dangerous thing in her life did not wear a black suit or command men with a glance. It came in envelopes, medical bills, rent notices, insurance statements, past due reminders. At 5:20 in the morning, her apartment in Bridgeport was still dark, except for the pale blue glow of her phone. Rain tapped softly against the kitchen window, not yet the violent Chicago storm it would become later, just a steady whisper against old glass. Ava stood barefoot beside the counter with one hand wrapped around a mug of coffee she had reheated twice. The coffee tasted burned. She drank it anyway. On the table sat 3 envelopes she had already opened and one she had not. She knew what was inside the unopened one. Another statement from the rehabilitation center. Another number she would memorize even though she wished she could forget it. Her phone buzzed. For half a second, panic tightened her chest. Then she saw Emily's name. Ava answered immediately. "You're awake." Emily laughed softly on the other end. "So are you. I have a job. You have an unhealthy relationship with fluorescent lighting." "That too." Ava carried the phone to the window and pulled the curtain aside. Chicago was still asleep. Streetlights reflected across wet pavement. A bus hissed to a stop at the corner. Somewhere below, a delivery truck groaned through an intersection. Emily asked, "Are you coming Sunday?" "Of course. You said that last Sunday." "I came last Sunday. You came for 40 minutes, fell asleep in the chair, woke up, denied falling asleep, and left. That still counts." Emily laughed again. Ava smiled. She loved that sound. It had been missing for too many months. "Bring me those chocolate bars from the vending machine," Emily said. "The terrible ones. The terrible ones. You have horrible taste. You raised me." Ava looked down at the rehabilitation bill. The smile faded from her face. "You feeling okay this morning?" "I'm good." There was the pause. Ava knew her sister well enough to hear what lived inside pauses. "Emily, I'm fine." That wasn't convincing. The physical therapist increased my sessions again. Ava closed her eyes. More sessions meant more progress. It also meant more money. "That's good." "It is." Emily hesitated. "Ava, you don't have to keep pretending this isn't expensive." Ava opened her eyes. "I'm not pretending. You sound tired." "I am tired. You work too much. I work the exact amount required to pay Chicago rent without selling one of my organs. Ava, I'm keeping both kidneys, I promise." Emily did not laugh this time. "You know what I mean." Ava stared at the envelope. She did know. That was the problem. "Listen to me," Ava said. "Your job is to get stronger. My job is everything else. That doesn't sound fair. Life has never had a reputation for fairness. You can't destroy yourself because of me." Ava's fingers tightened around the phone. "Yes, I can." Silence. She immediately regretted how fast she had said it. Her voice softened. "You're my sister, and you're mine, I know. So maybe I get to worry about you too." Ava looked at the clock. 5:37. If she missed the next train, Brent would make a comment. If he made a comment, she would have to smile. She was already tired of smiling. "I have to go," Emily sighed. "Promise you'll eat something. I promise." "You're lying. I'm hanging up now. I love you." Ava stopped. The city beyond the window suddenly felt very far away. "I love you too." She ended the call and stood there another moment. Then she opened the banking app. Checking account. $914. Rent was due in 4 days. Her insurance deduction would hit Friday. Emily's next rehabilitation payment was due Monday. Ava locked the screen. She did not open the fourth envelope. Some mornings, courage was not dramatic. Sometimes it was simply putting on shoes and going to work when every part of you wanted to disappear. By 7:08, Ava was walking into Lakeshore Freight Solutions with her hair still damp from the rain, and a granola bar she had forgotten to eat inside her purse. The company occupied 3 floors of an aging office building near Chicago's industrial corridor. Nothing about it looked impressive. Gray carpet, gray walls, gray cubicles. Every hallway smelled faintly of printer toner and old coffee. The freight never stopped moving, though. Trucks crossed Illinois while Ava slept. Containers rolled off trains before sunrise. Warehouse crews loaded pallets through snowstorms. Clients called every hour, demanding to know why something had not arrived 3 minutes earlier. Ava liked that part. Logistics made sense. Problems had causes. Numbers left traces. Routes could be corrected. Machines could be repaired. People were harder. She had been at her desk less than 10 minutes when a driver called about a shipment stuck outside Joliet. Ava pulled up the route. What happened? Accident on 55. Traffic is dead. She checked another screen. How much fuel? Just under half. Do not turn around. What? Take the next exit east. Go through the service road by the distribution yard. I'm moving your drop point. That adds 30 miles. It saves you 2 hours. A pause. You sure I'm looking at the traffic cameras? You want me to call Brent? Ava glanced toward the glass office at the end of the floor. Brent Maddox had not arrived yet. No, the driver laughed. That means yes. It means drive. She rerouted the shipment called the receiving warehouse, changed the unloading window, and sent an updated delivery estimate before Brent walked in at 7:41, carrying a coffee the size of a flower vase. He stopped near Ava's desk. You're here early. I'm here at the same time every day. Are you? His eyes moved slowly over her face, then lower. Ava turned back to her monitor. The Joliet shipment was delayed. I rerouted it. Brent placed one hand on the back of her chair. Too close. He always did things like that. Never enough that she could easily explain why it bothered her. Just enough that she noticed. You should have called me. It was 6:40. That's what managers are for. You don't answer before 7. Brent smiled. Maybe I would answer for you. Ava's jaw tightened. She kept her face neutral. The first time he had said something like that, she had convinced herself she misunderstood. The 5th time, misunderstanding was no longer possible. Brent leaned slightly closer. What route did you use? Ava showed him. He studied the screen. That could work. It already is. He gave her shoulder a squeeze as though congratulating a child. Ava went completely still. His hand remained there 1 second too long. Then he walked away. Her body did not relax until his office door closed. Across the aisle, another coordinator glanced at her. Ava looked away before the woman could ask anything. 10 minutes later, Brent called the operations director. Ava could hear his voice through the glass wall. Yeah, I handled Joliet. We should still make the delivery window. Ava stared at her screen. Handled Joliet. Of course. She typed harder than necessary. At 9:30, the weekly operations meeting began. Ava usually attended only because Brent needed someone to bring accurate numbers. She sat at the far end of the conference table with her laptop open while department heads argued about freight capacity. Brent sat near the front. A delay in Indiana had created a bottleneck. A client wanted 3 additional trucks by evening. The warehouse manager said it was impossible. Brent said they would make it happen. Nobody explained how. Ava waited. Then she spoke. We have 2 return trucks leaving Hammond empty at 3. The room quieted slightly. Brent looked at her. Ava continued. If we move the departure forward 40 minutes and send them through Calumet City, they can pick up the overflow before the warehouse closes. The operations director frowned. Driver hours both are within limits. Fuel already budgeted on the return route. He looked at Brent. That work? Brent leaned back. His expression changed. Ava knew that expression. He was deciding whether to punish her now or later. Finally, he smiled. That's basically what I was thinking. Ava said nothing. The meeting moved on. Afterward, as the others left, Brent closed the conference room door. Ava's stomach tightened. He stood near the handle. You like making me look stupid? I answered a question. I had it handled. You didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Ava packed her laptop. Brent moved closer. "You're smart." She did not answer. "That's a compliment." "Thank you. Smart women sometimes have a problem, though." Ava looked at him. They forget who signs their performance reviews. There it was. Not a threat, not exactly. That was what Brent was good at. Everything lived in the space between what he said and what he meant. Ava slid the laptop into her bag. "Are we done?" Brent smiled. "For now." She walked toward the door. His fingers brushed the small of her back as she passed. Ava stopped. He had already stepped away. "Something wrong?" he asked. She turned. For 1 second she imagined saying it. "Do not touch me." The words were simple. The consequences were not. She thought of Emily, insurance, rent, the 4th envelope. "No," Ava said. Brent smiled again. Good. By lunchtime, Ava's headache had settled behind her eyes. She skipped the cafeteria and ate half of the granola bar at her desk while updating freight schedules. At 1:15, the atmosphere of the office changed. Managers straightened. The receptionist reapplied lipstick. 2 men from finance hurried toward the elevator. Ava barely noticed. She was on the phone with a warehouse supervisor in Cicero. "No, listen to me. If you send that truck back now, you lose 4 hours, the supervisor argued. Ava pulled up another route. "Take it through Joliet. That puts us south." "I know where Joliet is." "Then why would I go there?" "Because you have a driver sitting at the depot who still has illegal hours. Switch drivers there and keep the load moving." Silence. Then, "That could work. It will work." She ended the call. A man's voice behind her said, "You always sound that certain." Ava turned. He was tall, dark hair, black suit, no tie. She recognized his face from executive photographs but had never spoken to him. Gabriel Russo, one of the company's investors. Or perhaps more than an investor. Nobody seemed entirely sure. Ava glanced toward the hallway. Several senior managers were pretending not to watch them. "I try not to sound uncertain when a truck is worth $200,000. Gabriel's mouth shifted slightly. Not quite a smile. Fair. A second man stood beside him, Caleb Mercer. Ava knew his name from operations emails. He wore a dark blue suit and the expression of someone who noticed everything. Gabriel looked at Ava's screen. "Joliet." "Yes." "You're switching drivers there." Ava nodded. "It saves the shipment." Gabriel looked at Caleb. "She solved that faster than Harris did upstairs." Caleb's gaze moved to Ava. "She's a coordinator." Gabriel looked back at her. "Then somebody hired her under the wrong title." Ava did not know what to say to that. Gabriel walked away. Caleb followed. The entire interaction lasted less than a minute. Still, something about it lingered. Not because Gabriel Russo was handsome. He was. That was obvious. It lingered because he had listened. Not waited for his turn to speak. Not looked at her body before her screen. Listened. At 3:20, the copy machine jammed. Again. Ava opened the side panel. A sheet of paper had folded itself somewhere deep inside the machine. "Come on." She pulled at the tray. "Nothing. If you die on me today, I swear I will throw you out the window." "Does threatening office equipment improve performance?" Ava froze. Gabriel stood beside the doorway. She looked at the machine, then at him. It started it. This time he did smile. Barely. "Move." Ava stepped aside. "You know how to fix this, no? That is reassuring." He crouched, opened a lower panel she had not noticed, and removed the crumpled sheet. The machine hummed back to life. Ava stared at him. "You're one of the owners. One of them. And you fix copiers only when they insult employees I like." Ava folded her arms. That line usually worked. His eyes met hers. It wasn't a line. Before she could respond, Caleb appeared at the end of the corridor. "Gabriel." Gabriel looked toward him. "Meeting, I remember." He glanced back at Ava. "Try not to murder the machine. No promises." He left. Ava watched him disappear into the conference room. Then she looked at the copier. "Do not make this weird." The copier made a grinding noise. Exactly. Days passed, then weeks. Gabriel did not appear often, but when he did, Ava began to notice. He remembered things. That was dangerous in its own way. One evening, he walked past her desk while she was working through a late shipment report. "You missed lunch." Ava looked up. "How would you know you're still holding the same coffee you had at 11?" She looked at the cup. It was cold. I've been busy. 10 minutes later, someone from reception placed a cup of tea beside her keyboard. Ava frowned. Who sent this? The receptionist nodded toward the elevators. The doors were already closing. Gabriel stood inside. He did not wave. He simply looked at her until the doors met. Another week, Ava built a new route comparison model after noticing the company was losing money on empty return miles. She sent it to Brent. He ignored it. 2 days later, Gabriel stopped beside her desk. You built the regional return model. Ava looked up sharply. How did you see that Brent forwarded it? She almost laughed. Of course he did. He said your department has been developing it. My department consists of me, a laptop, and a printer that hates me. Gabriel's eyes narrowed. He said it was his project. Ava said nothing. Gabriel understood. Present it next Thursday. Her head came up. To who executive operations? Brent won't like that. I wasn't asking, Brent. Ava stared at him. Why? Because you built it. There was no flirtation in his voice. That made the moment stranger. More important. Before she could answer, Brent's office door opened. His gaze moved from Gabriel to Ava. Something dark passed across his face. Gabriel noticed. So did Ava. Brent waited until Gabriel left the building. Then he called Ava into his office. He closed the door. You and Russo getting friendly, Ava stayed standing. We talked about a route model. That all, yes. Brent leaned back in his chair. He likes women who look like you. Ava felt something cold move through her stomach. I don't know what that means. Sure you do. No, I don't. He smiled. You should be careful. With Gabriel with ambition. Ava picked up the report from his desk. I have work. Brent stood. So do I. He stepped around the desk and moved into her path. Ava stopped. His hand lifted. For 1 second she thought he might touch her face. Instead he adjusted the collar of her blouse. Ava recoiled. Brent's expression sharpened. Relax. Don't do that. His eyes changed. There it was. The moment when entitlement met resistance. Do what? Touch me? He laughed softly. You're being dramatic. I asked you not to. I fixed your collar. I didn't ask you to. For several seconds they stared at each other. Ava could hear her own heartbeat. Brent finally stepped aside. Careful, Ava. She walked out. Her hands did not stop shaking until she reached the restroom. That Sunday she drove to Evanston to see Emily. The rehabilitation center smelled like antiseptic coffee and artificial lemon. Emily was standing between parallel bars when Ava entered the physical therapy room. Sweat darkened her hairline. Her face was pale, but she was standing. Ava stopped in the doorway. Emily looked up. Do not cry. I'm not crying. You're crying. I have allergies. To medical facilities, very specific condition. Emily laughed. Ava crossed the room and hugged her carefully. Later, they sat near a window overlooking a courtyard stripped bare by winter. Emily opened the vending machine chocolate Ava had brought. This is disgusting. You demanded it. That does not make it less disgusting. Ava smiled. Emily studied her. What? You look exhausted. I always look exhausted. No, you look different. Ava looked out the window. Work is busy. Emily waited. Ava hated that her sister had learned silence from her. Finally, Emily asked, Is it your boss? Ava turned. What you get that look every time you mention work? What look? The one where you pretend you're not angry. Ava looked back at the courtyard. It's nothing. Emily's voice softened. Ava, he's just difficult. Difficult how Ava said nothing. Emily understood enough. Her expression changed. You can quit. No, Ava, no, I mean it. So do I. It's a job. It's insurance. Emily went quiet. Ava immediately wished she could take the words back. Emily looked down at the chocolate bar. You stay because of me. Ava leaned closer. I stay because we need stability. That means because of me. You are not a burden. I didn't say I was. Ava swallowed. Emily reached for her hand. You don't have to destroy yourself to keep me safe. Ava looked at her younger sister, at the hospital bracelet still around her wrist, at the muscles she was slowly teaching to work again, at everything illness had taken from her. Yes, Ava said quietly. I do. Emily's eyes filled. Ava squeezed her hand. You're going to walk out of here, Ava. That's the deal. You cannot make deals with the universe. Watch me. Emily laughed through the tears. Ava smiled back. For a few minutes that was enough. Then Monday came. Then Tuesday. Then another week. Brent became more careful in public and bolder in private. His hand on Ava's shoulder, his body blocking the door, his questions about whether she was dating anyone, his comments about Gabriel. Each incident was small enough to explain away. Together they formed something Ava could feel closing around her. And still she stayed. Because every Friday insurance came out of her paycheck. Every Sunday Emily took more steps. Every month the bills arrived. Then came the storm. By late afternoon rain hammered the windows of Lakeshore Freight. Employees left early. Ava did not. Brent dropped a stack of Anderson reconciliation reports on her desk. Need these tonight. Ava looked at the pages. This is 6 hours of work. You're fast. I have plans. He smiled. What plans? She stared at him. He leaned down. You always the secretive. I'll finish the reports. Good girl. Ava looked up. Brent was already walking away. At 9:15, the office was nearly empty. At 10:30, only Ava and Brent remained. At 11:12, Ava heard laughter from his office, a phone call, a bottle opening. At 11:36, she finished the last report. She packed her laptop. Her phone buzzed. Another payment reminder from the rehabilitation center. Ava closed her eyes. Then she heard footsteps behind her. Slow, uneven, a man humming. She turned. Brent stood at the edge of the darkened office with his jacket over one shoulder. His eyes were glassy. His smile was wrong. Still here, Ava looked toward the elevators, then back at him. You told me the Anderson reports had to be finished tonight. Brent took another step closer. I also told you not to work yourself to death. Ava slipped her phone into her purse. I'm leaving. So soon it's almost midnight. He moved into the aisle, blocking the easiest path to the door. Ava stopped. The rain struck the windows harder now. Brent, what move? He smiled. And for the first time, Ava understood with absolute certainty that he had been waiting for the office to empty. She tightened her grip around the strap of her purse. Brent came closer. You know you spend so much time acting scared of me. People might start thinking I actually did something. Ava's voice came out quieter than she wanted. Let me pass. He did not. His hand reached for her wrist. The same hallway Gabriel Russo had once walked through was now dark behind him. And when Ava heard the elevator doors open somewhere beyond the cubicles, she did not yet know who had stepped out. The elevator doors opened with a soft, metallic chime. Brent did not turn around. Ava did. At first, she saw only a dark silhouette beyond the rows of empty cubicles. Then the man stepped into the light. Gabriel Russo. Rain glistened across the shoulders of his charcoal coat. His hair was damp at the temples. He looked as though he had walked straight out of the storm and brought part of it inside with him. His eyes moved from Ava's face to Brent's hand around her wrist. Something in Gabriel's expression disappeared. Not anger. Something colder than anger. Take your hand off her. Brent froze. His fingers remained around Ava's wrist for 1 second too long. Then he released her. Mr. Russo. Gabriel walked toward them. He did not hurry. That made the silence worse. Ava stepped back and rubbed the red marks forming on her skin. Brent cleared his throat. This is not what it looks like. Gabriel stopped several feet away. Did she tell you to stop? Brent forced a nervous laugh. We were talking. Gabriel looked at Ava. Did you tell him to stop? Ava felt Brent watching her. For weeks she had swallowed words, measured consequences, calculated rent insurance, medication, rehabilitation. Tonight something inside her finally broke loose. Yes. Gabriel turned back to Brent. 1 second passed. Then Brent hit the edge of the desk. Gabriel had moved so quickly Ava barely saw it. One hand gripped Brent's shirt, the other drove him forward. Papers scattered across the floor. Brent gasped. Jesus Christ. Gabriel pulled him upright. You know what separates a mistake from a choice. Brent's face had gone pale. Mr. Russo, please. A warning. Gabriel's gaze dropped briefly to Ava's wrist. You already had yours. Brent tried to pull free. Gabriel tightened his grip. Touch her again, he said quietly, and I will bury you where no one will ever find you. No one spoke. The rain struck the windows. Brent's breathing sounded too loud in the empty office. Gabriel released him. "Get out." Brent did not argue. He grabbed his coat and stumbled toward the elevators. Ava watched him leave. The doors closed. Only then did she realize she was shaking. Gabriel turned toward her. The violence was gone from his face. That should have made her feel better. It did not. He removed his coat and held it out. Ava did not take it. Gabriel stopped. "Are you hurt?" "No." His eyes moved to her wrist. "That is not what I asked. I said no." A pause, then he lowered the coat. Ava looked at the desk Brent had nearly collapsed over. "You could have killed him." "Yes." The answer came too easily. She stared at him. Gabriel seemed to understand what she was thinking. He placed the coat across the back of a chair instead of approaching her. "You are afraid of me." Ava swallowed. "I just watched you throw my boss into a desk. Former boss." Her eyes narrowed. "You cannot decide that. I own controlling interest in this company." That stopped her. Ava had known he was an investor. She had not known the extent of it. Gabriel continued, "Brent Maddox does not work here anymore." Ava laughed once. The sound held no humor. "That is supposed to make everything better, no? Because I still need a paycheck. I know. Do you?" His silence irritated her. Ava picked up her purse. "I am leaving." Gabriel moved slightly. She immediately stiffened. He noticed and stopped. "I can drive you." "No." "I can call a car." "No." "The storm is getting worse." "I know how weather works." For the first time, something almost like amusement touched his face. It vanished quickly. "All right." Ava stared at him. "You are just going to let me leave. You said no." The simplicity of it unsettled her. She had spent weeks dealing with a man who treated every boundary as an invitation to negotiate. Gabriel Russo, who had just threatened to bury someone, stepped aside. Ava walked past him. He did not touch her. At the elevator, she pressed the button. The doors opened. Before stepping inside, she looked back. Gabriel stood alone between the empty desks. "You really fired him, yes, just like that, no." His eyes hardened. "Not just like that." The elevator doors closed before she could ask what he meant. Outside, the rain had become a sheet of silver. Ava stood beneath the awning and opened a ride service app. No cars available. She tried another. 38-minute wait. A gust of wind drove rain beneath the awning. A black sedan rolled to the curb, the passenger window lowered. Gabriel sat behind the wheel. Ava stared at him. "I said no. You said no to me driving you. That seems relevant." "It is." He nodded toward the street. "The buses are delayed. The train near your stop is suspended. How do you know where my stop is?" Gabriel's expression changed. "There. A mistake." Ava felt it immediately. "How do you know where I live?" He did not answer fast enough. She stepped away from the car. "Gabriel, get in. I will explain." "No. Ava, you knew where I lived before tonight." "Yes." Rain soaked through the shoulders of her blouse. She barely noticed. How Gabriel looked toward the empty street, then back at her. "I know more about you than you are going to like." A cold feeling moved through her. That is not comforting. It was not meant to be. She should have walked away. Instead, she stood there in the rain, staring at the man who had just admitted something that sounded almost as threatening as Brent's behavior. Gabriel unlocked the passenger door. "I will take you somewhere public. You can leave whenever you want." Ava hesitated, then opened the door. "Public, yes. And if I tell you to stop the car, you stop, yes." She got in. The interior smelled faintly of leather and cedar. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. Chicago passed around them in wet reflections. Traffic lights bled across the pavement. Sirens sounded somewhere far away. Ava kept one hand around her purse. Gabriel noticed. He did not comment. Finally, she said, "How long have you known about Brent?" "Not long enough. That is not an answer. I knew he was incompetent. You kept him employed. Yes, he took credit for my work. I learned that recently." Ava looked out the window. "And the rest," Gabriel's jaw tightened. "I did not know he was touching you. If you had," he looked at her, "he would not have made it to tonight." Ava turned back toward the window. "That is exactly the kind of answer that makes normal people nervous." "I have never been accused of being normal. No, I imagine not." They drove another block. Gabriel turned into a small diner near the river. The place was nearly empty. A waitress sat behind the counter reading a magazine. Ava looked at him. "You said public?" "I did." Inside, they took a booth near the window. Gabriel sat across from her, not beside her. Ava noticed that too. The waitress brought coffee. Ava wrapped both hands around the mug. Gabriel did not touch his. He placed a black folder on the table. Ava looked at it. "What is that A job offer?" She stared at him. "You fired my boss and brought me to a diner to recruit me. I did not fire him to recruit you." "That sounds like something a man recruiting me would say." Gabriel pushed the folder forward. Ava opened it. Her eyes moved across the first page, then stopped. Director of Regional Logistics, Russo Apex Freight. The salary made her read the number twice, then a third time. She closed the folder. "No." Gabriel's eyebrows lifted slightly. "You did not finish." "I finished enough. You have questions. I have one. Ask. What do you want for you to run Regional Logistics?" "That is not what I mean." "I know." Ava leaned back. "You watch me at work. You know where I live. You show up after midnight. You beat a man half senseless. Then you offer me more money than I have ever made in my life." Gabriel remained still. "So tell me what you actually want." His eyes held hers. "You think I want to buy you. I think powerful men rarely give things away. That is true. Good. Then we understand each other." "No." Ava frowned. Gabriel opened the folder again and turned it toward her. "I need someone who understands the network. You have executives. I have executives who explain why problems are difficult." He tapped the contract. "You solve them." Ava said nothing. Gabriel continued. "The Joliet reroute, the Hammond overflow, the return mileage model." Her expression changed. "You remember all of that?" "Yes." "Why? Because competence is rare." His answer was so matter-of-fact that she could not decide whether it was flattering. Then Gabriel reached into his coat and placed a second envelope on the table. Ava recognized the Rehabilitation Center logo immediately. Her blood went cold. "What is that?" Gabriel did not answer. She grabbed it. Inside was a statement. "Balance due, 0." Ava stared at the page. Her mind refused to understand it. Then it did. She looked up. "What did you do?" "The balance was paid this afternoon." Her chair scraped against the floor as she stood. The waitress glanced over. Ava lowered her voice. "You investigated my sister. I investigated you. That is not better, I know. You found her. Yes, you found her medical bills. Yes, and you paid them without asking me." Gabriel did not look away. "Yes." Ava wanted to throw the coffee in his face. Instead, she gripped the edge of the table. "You had no right. I know that now. Now I thought I was removing a problem. She is not a problem." "I did not say she was. You looked at the most vulnerable part of my life and decided money gave you permission to touch it." The words landed. Gabriel's expression changed. Barely. But Ava saw it. "You think I used her as leverage. Did you know? Then why did you pay? Because you were working yourself into the ground. That was my choice. It was killing you. Still my choice." Silence stretched between them. The waitress looked over again. Ava sat down slowly. Her hands were shaking now for an entirely different reason. Gabriel finally spoke. "Tell me how to fix it." Ava almost laughed. "You cannot. Try me." She looked at the contract, then at the medical statement. "The money becomes a loan." "No. Then I walk out that door." Gabriel's jaw tightened. Ava reached for her purse. "Fine." She stopped. "Fine, 0 interest. You do not set the terms." Something moved in his eyes. Respect, perhaps. Ava continued. "No payment schedule until Emily leaves rehabilitation. No pressure, no favors attached." "Agreed. And if I take this job, I get authority that matches the title." "You will. I report based on performance." "Yes. You do not fire me because I disagree with you. That depends." Ava stared at him. Gabriel almost smiled. "If you are wrong, I reserve the right to tell you. That is not what I said. No. You said fire." He leaned back. "I will not fire you for disagreeing with me." Ava looked down at the contract again. "Why me?" Gabriel answered without hesitation. "Because you are better than the job you have." Something in her chest tightened. Not romance. Not yet. Recognition. It had been a long time since anyone had seen what she could do without trying to take credit for it. Ava closed the folder. "I have conditions. I assumed you would. You do not pay anything else for me without asking." "Agreed." "You do not send people to watch me." Gabriel said nothing. Ava narrowed her eyes. Gabriel, no people outside your apartment. That was very specific. It was. She stared at him. He added, agreed. And you do not decide who I talk to. His expression hardened slightly. Ava noticed. That one difficult no. You paused. I was thinking. Dangerous habit. His mouth curved. Anything else? Yes. Ava leaned forward. You never confuse protecting me with owning me. The humor vanished from his face. For several seconds, neither moved. Then Gabriel said quietly, You work for me, Ava. She waited. You do not belong to me. The words should have relieved her. Instead, they settled somewhere deep. Ava looked away first. The next morning, she arrived at Russo Apex Freight at 8 Azzurro. The building stood near the Chicago River, all dark glass and steel. Inside, everything moved with quiet precision. Security guards checked identification. Freight maps covered entire walls. Digital boards tracked trucks across several states. This was not Lakeshore, not even close. Gabriel met her near the elevators. Beside him stood Caleb Mercer. Caleb extended his hand. Director Collins. Ava shook it. Ava is fine. His smile was polite. Here, titles matter. Ava held his gaze. Then you should probably use mine. For the first time, Caleb's smile became real. Or almost real. Gabriel looked away, hiding amusement. They rode the elevator in silence. At the 31st floor, Gabriel led Ava into a corner office overlooking the river. Her name was already on the door. Ava stared at it. You move fast. I dislike wasted time. She stepped inside. Gabriel remained near the doorway. Ava placed the folder on the desk. We need one more rule. I thought we covered them. We covered your money. Gabriel folded his arms. What is this one? Ava looked directly at him. If something happens in this company, you do not handle it for me unless I ask. His eyes narrowed. That depends on what happens. No, Ava. You said I do not belong to you. You do not. Then act like it. Silence. The city moved below them. Gabriel finally nodded. All right. Ava exhaled. But if someone tries to hurt you inside my world, I will not stand there and watch. She studied him, then said fine. Gabriel raised an eyebrow. Ava stepped around the desk. We handle it. For a moment, Gabriel said nothing. Then he looked at her as though he had just realized the woman standing in front of him was not someone he could place behind glass and keep safe. She was someone who intended to stand beside him. His phone rang. He glanced at the screen. Business returned to his face. Before answering, he looked at Ava. Welcome to Russo Apex Director Collins. Ava turned toward the wall of freight routes glowing across the office. For the first time in years, she was not looking for an exit. She was looking at the work. Ava spent the first morning at Russo Apex learning how quickly a room could decide what kind of woman she was before she ever opened her mouth. By 9:15, she had already heard 3 versions of the same rumor. Gabriel Russo had brought in someone from Lakeshore. Gabriel Russo had personally hired a 27-year-old coordinator as director of regional logistics. Gabriel Russo had apparently lost his mind. Nobody said the last part directly. They did not need to. Ava could see it in the way people looked at her when they thought she was not paying attention. She stood in front of the glass wall of her new office and watched the operations floor below. It was nothing like Lakeshore. There were no flickering fluorescent lights or broken printers complaining in the corner. Dozens of screens displayed live freight movements across Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Missouri, and Iowa. Dispatchers moved between stations carrying tablets. Calls came in through headsets. Warehouse cameras streamed across digital panels. Everything looked expensive. Everything looked controlled, which probably meant the problems were simply better dressed. A knock sounded behind her. Caleb Mercer stood in the doorway. He carried a tablet under one arm. Executive operations meeting in 10 minutes. Ava turned. I saw it on the calendar. Caleb nodded. His gaze traveled briefly across her office. Gabriel usually attends. Usually he is attending this one. Ava waited. Caleb did not leave. Is there something else? His expression remained courteous. You should know how that room works. Ava picked up her notebook. I assumed people talk and occasionally pretend to listen. A small smile touched his mouth. You are not wrong. He stepped farther inside. Most of those men have been running freight longer than you have been legally allowed to drive. Then they should have a lot to contribute. They also know you came from Lakeshore." Ava looked at him. And some of them will assume you are here because Gabriel wanted you here." "He did." Caleb's eyes sharpened. "You know what I mean." Ava slipped a pen into her notebook. "Yes. Does that bother you?" "Should it, that depends." "On what?" "Whether you need them to like you." Ava walked past him. "No." Caleb followed her into the hall. "Good answer." Ava glanced at him. "I was not answering for your approval. For the first time." Caleb laughed, quietly. "Maybe you will survive here after all." The executive conference room occupied the north corner of the building. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the river, the city beyond it washed in cold January light. 8 men were already seated when Ava entered. Conversation slowed. Gabriel sat at the head of the table. Dark suit, white shirt, no tie. He looked up when Ava walked in, but gave no sign that anything about this meeting was different, because she was there. Ava appreciated that. Caleb took a seat near Gabriel. Ava found the empty chair with her name displayed on the screen in front of it. Director of Regional Logistics. She sat. A heavy-set man across from her leaned back. "You must be Collins. Ava Collins, Martin Keene, warehouse operations." "I know." His eyebrows rose. Ava opened her notebook. "I read the department reports." Someone beside Martin exchanged a glance with him. The meeting began. For the first 20 minutes, Ava listened. Inventory shortages, driver turnover, late winter storms, a warehouse expansion outside Gary, a contract dispute in St. Louis. Gabriel spoke less than anyone else. When he did speak, conversation stopped immediately. Ava noticed something else. Nobody interrupted him. Nobody needed to be told not to. Then Martin brought up a delayed electronic shipment sitting in northwest Indiana. "We can move it Friday," he said. Ava looked down at the route schedule. "Friday misses the client window." Martin glanced at her. "We know. So why move it Friday?" "Because the transfer capacity is full until then." Ava studied the screen. "No, it isn't." Martin stared at her. A few faces turned. Ava tapped the tablet in front of her. "You have 3 containers scheduled through Gary tomorrow morning. Yes, one is empty. It is repositioning. To Bedford Park. Correct." Ava looked up. Why, Martin frowned. Because Bedford Park requested the equipment. They requested it 6 days ago. Their current capacity report shows 2 available units. Martin's expression tightened. Ava continued. "Use the empty container for the electronic shipment. Transfer the load in Gary. Send it through Calumet City and move it to Bedford Park after delivery. That adds handling. It saves the account. We already ran the options. Then run them again." Silence settled over the table. Martin leaned forward. "You have been here 4 days." Ava met his eyes. "And those containers have been sitting in Gary for 11. One of the younger managers looked down, clearly hiding a reaction. Martin turned toward Gabriel. Ava saw it happen. He did not answer her. He looked to the man he believed had put her in the room. Gabriel did not look at Martin. He looked at Ava. "What does it save?" Ava answered immediately. "Roughly 18 hours. 14% in empty return mileage if Bedford Park still needs the equipment afterward. Driver hours covered. 2 teams are within limits. Client impact. We keep the contract window." Gabriel nodded once. "Do it her way." Martin's jaw tightened. The conversation moved on. Ava did not smile, but something inside her settled. After the meeting ended, managers filtered into the hallway. Martin passed without looking at her. Gabriel remained at the table reviewing a message on his phone. Ava gathered her notes. "I did not need backup." Gabriel looked up. "That was not backup. You told him to do it my way, because your way was better. I could have convinced him. I know." Ava closed her notebook. "Then why step in?" Gabriel stood. "Because I was approving an operational decision. You could have made that clearer." His eyebrow lifted. "I thought I did. You are used to everyone in the room understanding what you mean before you finish the sentence. They usually do. That sounds exhausting for everyone else." A corner of his mouth moved. "You think I should have let you argue with Martin for another 10 minutes. I think next time you should let him discover that losing an argument to me does not require your permission." Gabriel studied her. Most men would have become defensive. He simply considered the point. Fair. Ava blinked. That was easy. Were you hoping for a fight? No. You look disappointed. I'm adjusting to management that occasionally listens. Gabriel stepped around the table. Do not get comfortable. Ava almost smiled. There he is. When she returned to her office, Caleb was waiting near her desk. That went well. Ava sat. Martin seems delightful. He will spend the afternoon complaining about you. Then at least he will be busy. Caleb leaned one shoulder against the wall. You embarrassed him. He asked a question. I answered. You corrected him in front of Gabriel. Was I supposed to lie? No. Caleb looked through the glass toward the operations floor. But there are different kinds of power here. Ava followed his gaze. I am beginning to notice. You have Gabriel's attention. His tone was casual, too casual. Ava looked back at him. I have a job. Caleb smiled. Of course. She heard the implication. So do you. His smile stayed in place. That I do. He left. Ava watched him walk away. She could not decide whether he had been warning her or measuring her. By the end of her second week, nobody asked whether she knew what she was doing. They did not necessarily like her. That was different. Ava learned the company through problems. A frozen loading dock outside Rockford, a driver shortage in Hammond, a supplier that kept mislabeling hazardous materials. A recurring delay in Kansas City that everyone blamed on weather until Ava noticed the actual problem was a warehouse shift change overlapping badly with the arrival schedule. She moved the arrival window by 35 minutes. The delays dropped almost immediately. Martin stopped questioning her in meetings. Instead, he started sending reports to her before meetings. Ava considered that progress. Gabriel rarely praised her. He did something she valued more. He used her recommendations. When she told him a warehouse manager was inflating equipment requests, he investigated. When she argued they were paying too much for emergency subcontractors, he asked for alternatives. When she said a route should be closed, he asked why. Then he listened to the answer. Still, there were things about Russo Apex that remained difficult to explain. Men came through the private elevators who did not look like freight executives. Some wore expensive suits, some wore leather jackets. All of them treated Gabriel with the same careful respect. There were meetings Ava was not invited to. Doors that required security codes her badge did not have. A lower parking level that never appeared on company maps. Once, while walking past Gabriel's office, she saw two men standing inside. One had blood on his shirt. Gabriel looked up. Their eyes met through the glass. Ava kept walking. She did not ask. Not yet. By late January, Chicago disappeared under snow. The storm began just after 4 in the afternoon. By 6, highways were closing. By 7, dozens of trucks were stranded between Chicago and Indiana. Most executives left before the roads became impossible. Ava stayed. At 8:30, the operations floor had emptied except for a few dispatchers, 2 security officers, and Gabriel. Ava stood in front of a route map with a headset pressed to one ear. No, keep him in Hammond, a dispatcher on the line argued. He wants to make the run. The interstate is ice. He says he has driven worse. Drivers always say that right before somebody has to pull them out of a ditch. She checked another screen. Put him in the hotel by the warehouse. We move the freight at 6. He will complain. He can complain somewhere warm. She ended the call. Gabriel's voice came from behind her, heartless. Ava turned. He held 2 sandwiches wrapped in plastic. What are those? Dinner? Those look like evidence. They are from the vending machine. That confirms it. Gabriel handed her one. Ava inspected the label. Turkey. You do not eat red meat. Her fingers stopped. How do you know that you removed pepperoni from a pizza during the operations lunch? That was 3 weeks ago. Yes. Ava stared at him. You remember strange things. So do you. How would you know? Because you have been watching Caleb. The air changed. Ava looked toward the nearly empty floor. I watch everyone. No. Gabriel opened his sandwich. You watch everyone once, you watch Caleb twice. Ava sat at a workstation. Maybe I do not trust people who smile that much. Caleb does not smile much. Exactly. That is how much I distrust him. Gabriel gave her a look. Ava took a bite of the sandwich. It was terrible. She chewed anyway. For a while they worked in silence. The snow thickened outside the windows until the city became a blur of white and gold. At 10:15, the last stranded driver checked in safely. Ava removed the headset and leaned back. My brain is officially closed. Gabriel sat across from her. I thought that happened around 8, yet somehow I still saved 3 trucks, 2. The third would have gotten stuck eventually. You cannot claim imaginary rescues. Watch me. Gabriel laughed. It surprised her. She had heard him make quiet sounds of amusement before. This was different. For one moment, Gabriel Russo looked younger, less guarded. Ava found herself staring. He noticed. What, nothing? You are a bad liar. You are very cheerful for a man whose company just lost 12 hours of deliveries. We lose 12 hours, nobody dies. The words were simple, but his expression changed when he said them. Ava noticed a pale scar crossing the back of his right hand. She had seen it before. Tonight, for some reason, she asked. Knife. Gabriel followed her gaze. No. Gun, no. Wild animal. He looked at her. Do I look like someone who wrestles wild animals? You threaten to bury a man in an undisclosed location. That is not an answer. Ava pointed at his hand. What happened? Gabriel was silent for several seconds. Broken bottle. That sounds disappointingly ordinary. It was. Bar fight. He looked out the window. My father. The humor disappeared. Ava lowered her hand. You do not have to tell me. I know. The storm pressed against the glass. Gabriel turned the scar toward the light. I was 14. He was drunk. I told him he was wrong about something. Ava waited. He did not enjoy being wrong. What did he do? Threw the bottle. Gabriel's voice remained calm. Too calm. It shattered against the wall. I put my hand up. Ava looked at the scar again. Your mother gone by then? I am sorry. Gabriel shrugged slightly. Do not be. That is a strange response. Pity never fixed anything. Neither does pretending something did not hurt. His eyes came back to hers. Ava realized she had gone too far. She expected him to close down. Instead, he asked, Is that what you do? The question caught her. What pretend things do not hurt? Ava looked away. I am very busy. That was not my question. You asked too many questions. So do you. She stood and carried her empty wrapper toward the trash. Gabriel followed several seconds later. They ended up near the windows. Below them, snow covered the riverwalk and softened the hard edges of the city. For once, Chicago looked quiet. Ava folded her arms. You know controlling everything does not make you safe. Gabriel stood beside her. No. Then why do it? His reflection watched her in the glass. Because it makes me useful. To people who depend on me. Ava thought of Emily, the bills, the nights she had gone to work sick because missing a shift felt impossible. That sounds familiar. Gabriel looked at her. You think we are alike, number good. I think we are both bad at letting other people carry anything. He did not answer. Ava turned toward the windows again. A few minutes later, a security guard called from downstairs. One of the loading dock alarms had triggered. Ava insisted on checking it herself. Gabriel came with her. The loading area was bitterly cold. Snow blew through the partially open service entrance. The alarm turned out to be a loose sensor. Ava fixed the issue with the maintenance supervisor and returned inside with melting snow in her hair. Gabriel stared at her. What? There is snow in your hair. I just walked through a blizzard. He lifted a hand, then stopped. Ava noticed the movement. His fingers remained several inches from her temple. Sorry. Something small shifted inside her. Brent had touched first and explained later. Gabriel had stopped before contact existed at all. Ava looked at his hand, then at him. You can touch my hair. His eyes darkened slightly. Can I? She nodded. Gabriel moved slowly. His fingers brushed one melting snowflake from a strand near her temple. The contact lasted less than a second. It felt longer. Ava did not move. Neither did he. The loading dock hummed around them. Finally, Gabriel lowered his hand. We should go upstairs. Yes. Neither of them moved immediately. Then Ava stepped away first. 3 weeks later, the first strange number appeared. Ava was reviewing regional fuel costs at 6:40 in the evening when Route 71 caught her attention. Chicago to Kansas City, routine freight, nothing unusual, except fuel consumption on the return trips had increased. not dramatically. 7% one week, 9 the next, then 12. Ava opened the electronic manifests. Outbound loads were heavy. Return loads were supposedly light. That made no sense. Heavy vehicles used more fuel. Light vehicles should not consistently consume more. She checked weather data. Nothing significant. Traffic reports, normal. Driver behavior, different drivers. Same pattern. Ava leaned closer to the screen. She opened axle weight records. 3 reports were missing. She searched warehouse timestamps. 2 had been manually changed. Her pulse slowed. That happened when she found something she did not understand. Most people became excited. Ava became very still. She pulled the last 3 months of Route 71 records, fuel receipts, toll logs, driver schedules, trailer assignments, GPS data. There. 3 separate tracking interruptions, each lasted between 28 and 43 minutes. Different dates, same section of the route. Ava printed everything. At 8:20, Caleb walked past her office. He stopped. "You are still here, so are you. I had a meeting. I have numbers." He looked at the papers spread across her desk. "Trouble, probably nothing." Caleb stepped inside. "What route?" Ava placed one hand over the top page casually. 71. Something changed in his face. It was tiny, a fraction of a second. Then it was gone. "The Kansas City run, yes. Those trucks have had GPS problems for months." Ava looked at him. "I did not say anything about GPS." Silence. Caleb smiled. "You mentioned Route 71. I remember the reports." Ava smiled back. "Good memory. One of my better qualities." He left. Ava waited until his footsteps disappeared. Then she looked back at the screen. The following morning, she checked access logs. Someone had reviewed Route 71 files less than 30 minutes after her conversation with Caleb. User authorization, C. Mercer. Ava did not accuse him. Not yet. Credentials could be copied. People could be careless. And Caleb Mercer had been beside Gabriel for 15 years. Ava needed facts. Over the next 4 days, she investigated quietly. She compared fuel purchases to reported load weights. She found 2 drivers who had recorded unexplained waiting periods near a private warehouse outside Joliet. One claimed dispatch had ordered him to turn off the truck tracking system. There was no dispatch record of that order. Ava checked camera archives. Several files were missing. Not deleted. Moved. Someone knew how internal systems worked. Someone had enough authority to make irregularities look administrative. On Friday afternoon, she requested warehouse access reports from Caleb. He appeared in her office an hour later. "You could have called me. I sent a request. For Route 71, yes." Caleb closed the door. Ava noticed. He sat across from her. "What exactly are you looking for in explanation? For fuel consumption, you think somebody is stealing diesel number cargo. I did not say that either." His smile was faint. "You enjoy this. What, making people guess how much you know?" Ava leaned back. "I did not realize we were playing a game. We are not." "Then why are you here instead of sending the access report?" Caleb's eyes held hers. "Because Gabriel trusts you." Ava waited. "He does not trust easily." "That sounds like a conversation for you and Gabriel. You have known him for 2 months, and I have known him for 15 years. There was no anger in Caleb's voice. That made the resentment beneath it easier to hear. Ava folded her hands on the desk. "Are you worried I am replacing you?" Caleb laughed. "No, you came to my office to remind me how long you have known him. I came to tell you that not every irregularity needs to become an investigation." Ava's expression changed. "Why not?" "Because freight is messy. Numbers are messy when people make mistakes." "Exactly. And when somebody makes the same mistake repeatedly," Caleb stood, "sometimes you should leave things alone." Ava looked up at him. "Is that advice?" "Yes." "Professional," Caleb paused. "Friendly?" Ava stood too. "Then here is some friendly advice in return." His eyes narrowed. "If you want me to stop looking at Route 71, telling me to stop looking at Route 71 is a terrible strategy." For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Caleb smiled again. "You really are different. From what he opened the door. From the people Gabriel usually keeps close." Ava watched him leave. This time, she waited until the elevator doors closed. Then she opened the access report he had finally sent. She scrolled through the authorization history. Route edits, camera access, manifest corrections, weight report adjustments. The same name appeared again. C. Mercer. Again. 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 Ava stared at the screen. She still did not know exactly what Caleb Mercer was hiding, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Numbers did not get nervous. Numbers did not resent her promotion. Numbers did not care who Gabriel trusted. And unlike people, numbers remembered everything. Ava did not sleep much that night. Every time she closed her eyes, the same authorization code appeared behind them. C. Mercer. She knew what it looked like. She also knew what it could mean. At 6:12 the next morning, she was back inside Russo Apex with coffee in one hand and 3 months of Route 71 records open across 2 monitors. The operations floor was almost empty. Outside, Chicago was still gray with early light. Inside, the numbers waited. Ava started over. Not because she doubted herself, because Caleb Mercer had been beside Gabriel Russo for 15 years. That kind of history deserved more than suspicion. She pulled fuel records, weight reports, driver logs, warehouse entry data, camera timestamps, dispatch notes. She built a timeline, then another, then a third. By 7:40, she had found something new. 3 Route 71 trucks had entered a private transfer facility outside Joliet on nights when their official manifests showed no scheduled stop. Each visit lasted between 30 and 40 minutes. Each truck left heavier than it arrived. The next official weight station showed the same original load. Ava stared at the screen. Someone was changing the numbers after the trucks moved. She opened the archived records and searched authorization history. Caleb's credentials appeared again, but this time there was more. A private access key. Executive clearance. Not enough to prove Caleb himself had used it, enough to make her stomach tighten. She printed the records. Then she sat very still. There was only one person she could take this to now. Gabriel. His office door was closed when she arrived upstairs. A security guard stood outside. Ava stopped. "Is he in?" The guard nodded. "Meeting?" "With who?" The guard gave her a look that said the answer was not his to give. Ava exhaled. "Tell him I need 5 minutes." The guard hesitated. Ava lifted the folder in her hand. "It is about Route 71. That changed things. The guard opened the door. Gabriel stood near the window speaking with 2 men Ava had never seen before. Caleb was not among them. One man wore a dark suit. The other had a leather jacket and a scar along his neck. Their conversation stopped when Ava entered. Gabriel looked at her, then at the folder. "Give us the room." The 2 men left without question. The door closed. Ava crossed to his desk. "I checked it again." Gabriel said nothing. She placed the folder in front of him. "Fuel discrepancies, missing weight reports, GPS interruptions, unauthorized warehouse stops, modified camera files." Gabriel opened the first page. His face did not change. Ava continued. 3 trucks entered the same private facility outside Joliet. Each visit lasted less than 40 minutes. Each truck came out heavier. Gabriel turned a page. "Who authorized the changes?" Ava looked at him. "You know." He stopped reading. For the first time since she walked in, his eyes lifted fully to hers. "Say it." Caleb's credentials. Silence. The city moved beyond the windows. A ferry crossed the river below. Cars crawled over bridges. Inside the office, nothing moved. Gabriel looked back at the file. "Credentials can be copied. I know. Access keys can be stolen. I know. System logs can be altered. I know." His voice hardened. "Then why are you standing here looking at me like you already decided?" Ava did not flinch. "Because I have not decided." Gabriel looked at her. "I checked 6 times because I knew what his name would mean to you." The tension in his jaw shifted. Not gone, just redirected. Ava came around the desk and pointed at one entry. "This is why I came to you instead of security." Gabriel looked. "Private clearance. Executive level. Caleb has that. So do you." Gabriel's eyes sharpened. "And 2 other people." "Yes." Ava turned another page. "But the timing matches Caleb's building access on all 3 nights." Gabriel read in silence. His thumb rested against the edge of the paper. Ava had seen those hands grip a man by the collar. She had seen them lift a cup of coffee, brush snow from her hair. Now one hand remained perfectly still. "He was with me when my father died," Gabriel said. Ava did not answer. He was there when half the people around me were waiting to see if I would fail. Gabriel closed the folder. He took a bullet for me once. Ava looked at him. That does not erase the records. No. You want me to be wrong. Yes. The honesty of it made the room quieter. Ava moved to the chair across from him. So do I. Gabriel looked at her. Why? Because if I am right, you lose someone you trusted. He leaned back. You think that matters to me? I think it matters more than you want it to. Gabriel looked away. Ava did not push. After a moment, he reached for his phone. He called security. I want truck 719 intercepted before it leaves Illinois. A pause. No police. Another pause. Bring it to South Warehouse 4. He ended the call. Ava watched him. What is on that truck? We are about to find out. They reached South Warehouse 4 just before noon. The building sat near an industrial rail line on the southwest side. No company logo marked the exterior, no office staff, no reception desk, only concrete loading bays, security cameras, and men who moved when Gabriel arrived. Ava stepped out of the car. Gabriel looked at her. You can stay here. No. Ava, you brought me because I found this. I brought you because you refused to stay behind. Correct. His jaw tightened. She lifted an eyebrow. Boundary. He stared at her for half a second, then turned toward the warehouse. Stay beside me. That I can do. Inside, truck 7119 sat beneath white industrial lights. 2 security men stood near the trailer. One held a crowbar. The other waited for Gabriel. We checked the official cargo, the man said. Manifest says machine parts. Gabriel looked at Ava. She opened the route file. Return weight says 9,000 pounds. The security man looked at the trailer. Scale says just over 16. Ava felt the answer before they opened anything. Gabriel nodded. The men removed the visible cargo. Pallets of machinery components came out first. Everything matched the manifest. Then one of the security men climbed inside and struck the trailer floor with the crowbar. The sound changed halfway down, solid, then hollow. Ava's stomach tightened. They removed a metal panel. Underneath was a hidden compartment. Inside sat long black crates. Gabriel's expression became unreadable. One of the men opened the first crate, rifles packed tightly, oiled, unregistered. Another crate held components wrapped in military packaging. Ava stared. This is not theft. Gabriel looked at the weapons. No. Someone is using your network. Yes. Why? Gabriel's voice went cold. To move weapons where they do not belong. Ava looked at him. And if federal agents stop one of these trucks? His eyes met hers. Everything becomes mine. The meaning settled. Not only illegal weapons, evidence, charges, a case built around his company, a network poisoned from the inside. Ava looked back at the crates. This is a setup. Gabriel nodded. His phone rang. He answered, listened. His face changed. Where is Caleb? Ava turned. Gabriel's voice sharpened. Find him. He ended the call. What happened? His driver says he canceled pickup this morning. Is he at headquarters? No. Home. No answer. Gabriel looked toward the weapons. Ava saw it happen. The last piece of denial disappeared. He did not speak for several seconds. Then he said, We go back. The drive to headquarters was silent. Gabriel sat beside Ava in the rear seat while another man drove. His phone never stopped vibrating. He ignored most of it. Ava watched Chicago slide past the window. She wanted to say something. Nothing sounded useful. Finally, Gabriel spoke. 15 years. Ava turned. He looked straight ahead. I knew what coffee he drank, which hand he shot with, which lies he told his mother when he did not want her to worry. His voice stayed calm. That made it worse. I trusted him with rooms I did not trust my own blood to enter. Ava said quietly, You trusted the man you knew? Gabriel looked at her. What if I never knew him? Then he was better at lying than you were at seeing. Gabriel's mouth tightened. That is supposed to help. No. Ava looked back out the window. It is supposed to be true. He said nothing after that. When they returned to Russo, Apex, Caleb's office was empty. The computer was gone, desk drawers open, one framed photograph remained face down. Gabriel picked it up. A younger Gabriel stood beside Caleb outside a warehouse. Both men looked barely 30. Caleb had one arm around Gabriel's shoulder. Gabriel set the photograph down. A security officer entered. His building access stopped at 9:18. Vehicle. Left garage at 9:24. Phone off. Gabriel turned. Freeze every route he touched in the last 90 days. The security officer nodded. Every warehouse. Every one. That could stop half the Western network? Gabriel did not blink. Then half the Western network stops. Ava stepped forward. Do not freeze everything. Gabriel looked at her. Why? Because whoever he is working with will know we found the operation. They already know. Maybe, but if every route stops at once, we show them exactly what we know. Gabriel studied her. Ava moved to Caleb's computer terminal and opened a map. Freeze Route 71. Quietly audit everything else. We could miss another truck. Then use weight patterns and fuel variants. We know what to search for now. Gabriel glanced at the security officer. Do what she said. The man left. Ava looked at Gabriel. You did not have to say it like that. Like what? Like I am giving orders to your security team. You are. She stared at him. Gabriel looked toward Caleb's empty desk. You found what they missed? Ava did not answer. She returned to her office. For the next 3 hours, she worked through route records while security searched for Caleb. At 4:17, her phone buzzed. A message from Derek Shaw, a warehouse manager she had spoken with before. Found another manifest. Need you downstairs. Ava frowned. She typed back. Which warehouse? No answer. She called. Voicemail. Ava looked through the glass wall. Gabriel's office was closed. Security moved through the corridor. She picked up the printed Route 71 file and headed toward the service elevators. The lower loading level smelled like oil and cold concrete. Half the overhead lights were off. Ava stepped out. Derek. No answer. A truck idled somewhere beyond the concrete pillars. She walked farther. Derek? A shadow moved. Ava stopped. Caleb stepped from behind a parked SUV. A gun rested in his hand. For 1 second, neither of them spoke. Then Ava understood everything at once. The text, the missing office, the silent loading level. Her mistake. Caleb looked tired, not panicked, not desperate, almost disappointed. You really cannot leave anything alone. Ava's pulse slammed against her ribs. She kept her voice steady. Put the gun down. Caleb smiled. Still giving orders. You are standing in Gabriel's building. Not for long. Ava looked toward the elevators. Caleb lifted the gun. Do not. She stopped. Where is Derek? Home, probably. You used his number. One of his accounts. Ava slowly lowered the folder in her hand. Caleb saw it. Drop it. She let the papers fall. They scattered across the concrete. Route 71. Fuel reports, access logs. All the numbers that had brought her here. Caleb walked closer. You should have taken the salary and stopped asking questions. Ava's eyes stayed on the gun. Gabriel trusted you. Something hard passed across Caleb's face. Gabriel trusts people when it is useful. You were with him 15 years. Exactly. Ava watched his expression. There it was. Not fear. Resentment. Old enough to have roots. Caleb moved behind her and gripped her arm. Walk! He pressed the gun against her side. Ava obeyed. Not because she was surrendering, because she needed time. He led her between rows of vehicles toward a black van. Ava listened. His breathing, his footsteps, her own pulse. She forced herself to notice everything. The distance to the elevator, the security camera above the ramp, the position of his hand, the sound of the gun against her coat. Why weapons? Ava asked. Caleb tightened his grip. Keep walking. If you wanted money, there were easier ways. I said keep walking. So it was not money. He shoved her forward. Ava stumbled, recovered. Milwaukee. Caleb's grip changed. Small, but real. Ava filed it away. You moved them for someone in Milwaukee. Very smart. You wanted Gabriel investigated. Caleb leaned closer. You really do love hearing yourself solve things. Ava turned her head slightly. Am I wrong? He pushed the gun harder against her ribs. She winced. Gabriel inherited everything, Caleb said. The words came out low. He inherited the warehouses, the routes, the men, the name. Ava kept him talking. And you think you earned it? I know what I earned. You wanted a piece. I wanted what was promised. By who? Does it matter? To you, apparently. Caleb stopped walking. Ava stopped with him. He turned her enough that she could see his face. For years I handled the things Gabriel did not want to touch. I cleaned up his father's mistakes. I kept men loyal when they were waiting for him to fail. I built half the network he stands on. His jaw tightened. And I stayed loyal. Until you did not. His eyes flashed. Until I understood loyalty only mattered when he needed it. Ava looked at him. So this is about power. This is about what is mine. You were offered territory, his silence answered. Milwaukee promised you control after Gabriel fell. Caleb smiled faintly. You really should have stayed a coordinator. Ava almost laughed. You are doing all of this because another man promised to make you important. The smile vanished. Caleb tightened his grip. Careful. Ava saw the wound clearly now. She pressed it. You hate Gabriel because he never treated you like an equal. Caleb's face changed. He treated me like family. No. Ava's voice was quiet. He treated you like the man he trusted most. You decided that was not enough. Shut up. And then I walked in. Caleb's eyes hardened. Ava continued. That is what really bothered you. The gun moved against her ribs. You had 15 years. I had 2 months. He listened to me in meetings. He changed decisions when I brought him better information. Caleb's breathing changed. Ava knew she was right. You think he replaced you? I said shut up. This is jealousy. No, it is. He grabbed the back of her neck. Ava's entire body went rigid. For one horrible second, she was back at Lakeshore. Brent's hand on her wrist. A filing cabinet against her back. The smell of alcohol. The knowledge that fighting could cost everything. Her lungs tightened. Not now. Caleb pulled her closer. This is economics. Ava swallowed. No. His eyes narrowed. You are angry because Gabriel never saw you the way you wanted him to. Footsteps sounded somewhere behind them. Caleb spun. Gabriel stood at the far end of the loading level. Alone. Ava's heart stopped. Gabriel's face was unreadable. His right hand held a pistol at his side. Caleb dragged Ava backward and pressed his weapon against her ribs. That is close enough. Gabriel stopped. His eyes moved to Ava. Not Caleb. Ava. Are you hurt? Caleb laughed. Still asking permission questions. Gabriel ignored him. Ava. I'm okay. She was not, but saying it steadied her. Caleb raised his voice. Drop the gun. Gabriel did not move. Now. Gabriel lowered his weapon slowly. Ava watched it fall. Metal struck concrete. Caleb smiled. Look at that. Gabriel's eyes remained on Ava. All that power, Caleb said, and one woman turns you stupid. Gabriel answered quietly. No. Ava saw his hand flex once at his side. She made me careful. Caleb laughed. You always did confuse restraint with strength. Gabriel looked at him now. You had every door open to you. Caleb's face twisted. I had doors you allowed me to use. You were my brother. No, I was useful. Gabriel's jaw tightened. Is that what they told you in Milwaukee? For the first time, Caleb looked surprised. Gabriel saw it. So, Kessler promised you territory. Caleb recovered. He promised me what you never would. Control. Ownership. Gabriel's expression went cold. Of roots that were never yours. I built them. You helped build them. Caleb pulled Ava tighter against him. She felt the gun shift. His attention was splitting. Gabriel was keeping him talking. Ava understood why. She looked down. Caleb's stance was wide, his right foot slightly forward. Her heel rested inches from his shoe. The shape of the moment sharpened. She remembered Brent, her body frozen, her mind calculating everything she could lose. She remembered the weeks afterward. The contract, the office, the meetings. The first time a room of men had waited for her answer. The first time Gabriel had stopped his hand before touching her hair. She looked at the gun, then at Gabriel. His eyes met hers. Something passed between them. Not a plan, not exactly, a question. Ava shifted her weight. Caleb noticed. Do not. Her heart pounded. She thought of Emily between the parallel bars, standing, trying, falling, standing again. Ava drew one breath, then drove the heel of her shoe down as hard as she could. Caleb shouted, his body jerked. The gun lifted away from her ribs. Ava slammed her elbow backward. It struck his side. Caleb cursed and grabbed for her. Gabriel moved, fast. He crossed the distance before Caleb could regain balance. Gabriel hit him at the shoulder and drove him into the side of the van. The gun fell. Ava stumbled away. Caleb swung at Gabriel. Gabriel blocked it and struck back. Once, twice. Caleb drove him into a concrete pillar. Ava heard the impact. Gabriel grunted. The gun lay 10 feet away. Caleb saw it. So did Ava. They moved at the same time. Ava reached it first. Her fingers closed around the grip. She turned, raised it. Stop! Her voice cracked across the loading bay. Both men froze. Caleb stared at her. Blood ran from his lip. Gabriel stood several feet away, one hand pressed against his side. Ava's arms trembled. The gun felt heavier than she expected. Caleb's eyes moved to the weapon, then to her face. You are not going to shoot me. Ava tightened her grip. Do not test me, he smiled. You do not know how. No, she breathed. But I know which direction the dangerous end points. The smile faded. Gabriel's voice came quietly. Ava. She looked at him. Keep your finger off the trigger. Ava glanced down, adjusted her hand. Caleb laughed once. Unbelievable. Footsteps thundered from the elevator corridor. Gabriel's security team appeared with weapons raised. Caleb looked around. It was over. 2 men forced him to his knees. Another took the gun from Ava. The second it left her hand, her fingers began shaking harder. Gabriel walked toward Caleb, slowly. Ava recognized that walk. She had seen it at Lakeshore. Caleb looked up. You going to kill me yourself? Gabriel stopped in front of him. His face held nothing. You put a gun on her. Caleb smiled through the blood. There it is. Gabriel reached for him. Gabriel. Ava's voice stopped him. He turned. She shook her head. Don't. The security men looked between them. Gabriel stared at her. After what he did, I'm not asking you to forgive him. He tried to take you, I know. He would have killed you, I know. Gabriel's voice dropped. Then why? Ava swallowed. Her hands would not stop shaking. Because I do not want to watch another man die because of me. Gabriel's expression shifted. Ava stepped closer. Whatever happens to him, do not make it happen here. For several seconds, Gabriel said nothing. Then he looked at the security men. Take him. Caleb's expression changed. Gabriel. Not one word. The quiet in Gabriel's voice shut him down. The men dragged Caleb toward the elevators. He looked back once. Not at Ava. At Gabriel. Whatever had existed between them for 15 years ended in that look. The elevator doors closed. Silence returned. Ava stood beside the van. Her knees suddenly felt weak. Gabriel turned toward her. The adrenaline vanished all at once. Her body began to shake, not lightly, hard enough that she had to press one hand against the vehicle to stay upright. Gabriel moved toward her, then stopped, 3 feet away. Ava! She looked at him. His face was pale. There was blood at his shirt near his ribs. She stared at it. You're hurt. It is nothing. That is blood. I know. You need a doctor. So do you. I'm not bleeding. Gabriel looked at the red mark forming along her wrist where Caleb had grabbed her. His jaw tightened. Ava followed his gaze. The mark blurred. She realized her eyes had filled. She hated that. I thought I was going to freeze again. Gabriel said nothing. The words came faster now. When he grabbed me, I was back there, at Lakeshore. I could smell Brent's whiskey. I could feel that filing cabinet. Her voice broke. I thought my body was going to stop listening to me. Gabriel stood perfectly still. Ava looked at him. But it didn't. No. I was terrified. I know. She wiped at her face angrily. I hate that. What? Being afraid. Gabriel's voice softened. Being afraid does not mean you froze. Ava breathed in. It shook on the way out. You moved. He took one slow step closer. You thought. Another. You fought. He stopped again, close enough now that she could see the small cut near his jaw. Still, he did not touch her. Ava looked at his hands, then at his face. Can you hold me? Something in Gabriel broke. Not visibly, not dramatically, but she saw it in his eyes. He closed the distance and wrapped his arms around her. Ava pressed her face into his chest. For the first few seconds, she held herself rigid. Then everything gave way. Her fingers gripped the back of his shirt. Gabriel held her carefully, not crushing, not claiming, just there. Ava listened to his heartbeat. Too fast. She pulled back enough to look at him. You were scared. Gabriel said nothing. You were. His eyes stayed on hers. When I came downstairs and saw the gun against you, I could not think. Ava almost smiled through the tears. That seems inconvenient for a man who runs an empire. It was. You dropped your gun. He had you. You trusted me. Gabriel's face changed. No. Ava frowned. He lifted one hand toward her face, then stopped. She nodded once. His thumb brushed a tear from her cheek. I trusted you more than I trusted myself. The words settled between them. Ava looked at his mouth, then back at his eyes. For weeks, every moment between them had stopped just before becoming something else. A hand over snow in her hair, a look across a conference table, a quiet meal during a storm, a rule, a boundary, a question. Ava understood something now. Gabriel would wait. If she walked away, he would let her. If she stayed, he would still wait. So she made the choice for both of them. Ava reached up, gripped the front of his shirt, and kissed him. Gabriel went completely still. For one heartbeat, he did not respond. Then his hand settled gently against the side of her face. The kiss deepened. Slowly. Carefully. Nothing like the violence that had filled the loading bay minutes earlier. Ava felt the contrast all the way through her. Gabriel pulled back first. His forehead rested lightly against hers. Ava. She closed her eyes. Do not ask if I am sure. I was going to ask if you are hurt. She opened her eyes. Despite everything, a laugh escaped her. Gabriel almost smiled. Then Ava noticed his hand return to his ribs. The smile disappeared. Sit down. I'm fine. You are bleeding through your shirt. I have had worse. That is officially my least favorite sentence. She took his wrist. This time she was the one doing the touching. Sit. Gabriel looked at her hand around his, then at her. Yes, Director Collins. Ava led him toward a bench near the security station. He sat. She crouched in front of him and carefully pulled his jacket aside. A shallow cut crossed his ribs where Caleb had driven him against the pillar. Ava exhaled. You need stitches. Probably. That is not a normal response. I told you. Yes, you are not normal. Gabriel watched her. Ava found a first aid kit mounted on the wall. Her hand still shook as she opened it. Gabriel noticed. You do not have to do that. I know. She took out gauze. Hold still. He did. Ava pressed the gauze carefully against the wound. Gabriel inhaled sharply. Thought you had worse. I did. You are very annoying when injured. I have been told. By who? People who are no longer around. Ava paused. Gabriel looked at her. That sounded more threatening than I intended. With you, I never know. She taped the gauze in place. Neither spoke for a moment. Then Gabriel said, You picked up the gun. Ava looked down at her hands. Yes. You did not have to. Yes, I did. No. His voice was quiet. You had already created the opening. My men were coming. I did not know that. Gabriel watched her carefully. Ava swallowed. I needed to know I could move. He understood. She could see it. Ava looked toward the elevator where Caleb had disappeared. At Lake Shore, I kept telling myself I was choosing not to fight Brent. Gabriel said nothing. Maybe some of that was true. I needed the job. I needed the insurance. But after a while, I started wondering if I had forgotten how to say no when it mattered. You said no to me the first night. That was different. Why? Ava looked at him. Because you listened. The words stayed there. Gabriel lowered his gaze. Ava finished securing the bandage. Then she sat beside him. The loading level looked ordinary again. Concrete, parked vehicles, white lights. But the scattered Route 71 papers still covered the floor. Ava stared at them. One page had a shoe print across Caleb's authorization code. She almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Gabriel followed her gaze. You found him! The numbers found him. You followed them. That is my job. No. Ava looked at him. Gabriel's expression was serious. That stopped being just your job the second it became dangerous. Ava felt herself tense. He noticed. I'm not telling you to stop. She relaxed slightly. Gabriel continued. I'm telling you that from now on, if you find something like this, you tell me before you follow a message into an empty loading bay. Ava looked away. That was stupid. Yes. She turned back. You're agreeing too quickly. It was extremely stupid. Thank you. But I understand why you went. Do you? You thought it was another piece of the problem. Ava nodded. Gabriel looked at the doors. And you still think problems can always be solved if you get close enough to them. She almost smiled. Usually. Not men with guns. Noted. He stood carefully. Ava rose too. The security chief approached from the far end. We have Caleb secured. Gabriel's face changed immediately. The softness disappeared. Not because it was false, because another part of him had returned. Anything from his phone destroyed, vehicle, clean, contacts, we are pulling them. The man hesitated. There is one name coming up from Milwaukee. Gabriel's eyes went cold. Kessler. The security chief nodded. Ava watched Gabriel absorb it. No surprise now, only confirmation. Gabriel looked toward the freight papers on the floor. Lock every Kessler-connected account out of our system. The man nodded. Quietly. Understood. And nobody touches Route 71 records. Gabriel looked at Ava. She controls the audit. The security chief turned to her. Understood. He walked away. Ava stared at Gabriel. You just gave me control of an internal investigation. You already have it. I am director of regional logistics. Exactly. That is not normally an investigative role. Gabriel glanced at the scattered papers. Apparently it is now. Ava folded her arms. You make very strange management decisions. I hired you. Excellent example. Gabriel almost smiled. Then his expression softened. You should go home. Ava looked at him. So should you. I have work. So do I. Ava. Boundary. His eyes narrowed. She waited. Gabriel exhaled. Fine. Fine. You can stay. Ava looked surprised. You're improving. Do not get used to it. There he is. They walked toward the elevator together. At the doors, Gabriel stopped. Ava looked at him. What? He glanced at her hand, then back at her face. He did not reach for it. He waited. Ava understood. Slowly, she slid her fingers into his. Gabriel's hand closed around hers. Not tightly, just enough. The elevator arrived. They stepped inside side by side. For the first time since Ava had entered Gabriel Russo's world, the danger around them was no longer abstract. It had a face, a history, a weapon, and blood on the concrete. Ava looked at their joined hands. She had once believed strength meant never being afraid. Now she knew fear could travel with you. It could shake your hands, tighten your throat, make your heart pound so violently you thought everyone could hear it. And still your feet could move. The elevator climbed. Gabriel stood beside her, bruised and bleeding, saying nothing. Ava did not need him to tell her what she had done. She had felt it the moment she drove her heel into Caleb's foot. The moment she reached for the gun. The moment she asked Gabriel to hold her because asking was not weakness. It was choice. The doors opened on the executive floor. Gabriel stepped out first. Ava kept hold of his hand. So did he. Ava did not release Gabriel's hand until they reached his office. Only then did she notice how much blood had soaked through the gauze beneath his shirt. You are going to a hospital. Gabriel closed the door. No. That was not a question. I noticed. Ava stared at him. He stared back. For 3 seconds neither moved. Then Gabriel reached for his phone. I have a doctor. Of course you do. He makes house calls. Of course he does. Gabriel almost smiled. Ava pointed at the sofa. Sit, Director Collins. Sit. He sat. 20 minutes later, a gray-haired physician arrived carrying a black medical case and absolutely no curiosity. He cleaned Gabriel's wound, confirmed that nothing was broken, and placed 5 stitches along his ribs. Ava remained near the windows. Gabriel never complained, not once. That irritated her more than if he had. When the doctor finally left, Gabriel stood. Ava turned. Sit back down. I am capable of standing. Congratulations. I have work. You have stitches. Those things can coexist. Ava crossed her arms. You are impossible. Gabriel studied her for a moment. Then his gaze softened. So are you. The answer took the fight out of her. Outside the windows, Chicago had slipped into night. The river reflected lines of gold between black buildings. Snow rested along the rooftops. Traffic moved through the city as though nothing had happened beneath their feet. As though Caleb Mercer had not held a gun against her ribs. As though Gabriel had not dropped his weapon for her. As though 15 years of loyalty had not ended in a concrete garage. Ava looked down at her hands. They were steady now, Gabriel noticed. You should go home. She shook her head. No. Ava. I do not want to be alone tonight. The words came quietly. Gabriel said nothing. Ava looked at him. I am not asking you to fix anything. I know. I just do not want silence. Something changed in his face. Then stay. His penthouse occupied the upper floors of the same building, but it felt nothing like the offices below. No guards inside, no dark conference rooms, no men waiting for orders, just wood-glass books, low lamps, and an old record player near the windows. Ava walked slowly through the living room. This is not what I expected. Gabriel loosened the collar of his shirt. What did you expect? More black marble. He looked around. There is some. Of course there is. Ava noticed a stack of history books beside an armchair. A jazz record rested near the player. A framed photograph stood on a shelf. Gabriel was younger in it. Beside him stood a woman Ava assumed was his mother. He followed her gaze. She died when I was 12. Ava looked at him. I am sorry. Gabriel nodded once. This time he did not tell her not to be. That mattered. Ava found fresh gauze in the medical kit the doctor had left behind. Your bandage is already bleeding through. It is fine. You really need new words. She stepped closer and lifted the edge of his shirt. Gabriel watched her. Ava carefully removed the old gauze. The wound looked angry but clean. You should have found Caleb sooner. Gabriel's voice was quiet. Ava glanced up. What? I should have seen it. You trusted him. That nearly got you killed. No. She pressed fresh gauze against his side. Caleb nearly got me killed. Gabriel looked away. Ava continued. You do not get to take responsibility for every terrible decision someone else makes. His eyes returned to hers. The sentence hung between them. Ava heard another name inside it. Brent. For weeks she had wondered whether she had invited something by being too quiet. Whether staying had made her responsible. Whether fear had somehow become consent because she had not fought sooner. She understood now how cruel that logic was. Gabriel seemed to understand what she had just realized, too. Neither said it aloud. Ava taped the bandage into place. There, Gabriel looked down. Thank you. You are welcome. She started to step away. His fingers lightly caught hers. He stopped immediately. Ava looked down at their hands, then back at him. You can hold it. Gabriel closed his hand around hers. His thumb moved once across her knuckles. When I saw him with you, he said, I forgot every plan I had. Ava stayed still. I have had guns pointed at me before. I have watched buildings burn. I have buried men I knew most of my life. His eyes met hers. None of that felt like seeing that gun against you. Ava's throat tightened. You were afraid. Yes. He said it without shame. Ava stepped closer. I thought men like you were not supposed to admit that. Men like me lie about many things. And this, Gabriel looked at her. Not to you. Ava reached up and touched his jaw. He leaned into her hand almost imperceptibly. Maybe caring about someone does not make you weak. No. Maybe it gives you something worth being careful for. A faint smile touched his mouth. That sounds dangerously hopeful. I have been spending time with questionable people. This time he laughed, softly. Ava smiled. Then she kissed him. There was no panic in it now. No gun on the floor. No blood in her mouth from biting back fear. Just choice. Gabriel's hand settled against her waist. Careful. Always careful with her. By morning, Russo Apex had become a war room. Not the kind with shouting. Gabriel did not shout. That made everyone else quieter. Security teams traced Caleb's communications. Ava worked through every freight lane he had accessed. By noon, they had a name. Victor Kessler, a Milwaukee operator who had spent years trying to break into Russo-controlled territory. Caleb had been promised control of the northern freight routes once Gabriel fell. The plan had been simple. Move illegal weapons through Russo trucks. Create enough evidence for federal investigators to tear apart the legitimate business. Use the chaos to divide the rest. Gabriel stood beside Ava as she reviewed the final audit. Can we isolate the compromised routes? Yes. Without shutting down the company? Yes. He looked at her. How? Ava turned the screen toward him. We stopped thinking like Caleb. Gabriel waited. He assumed control meant one person needed access to everything. She pointed at the new system. So we separate authority. Nobody changes manifest weight records and tracking data under the same credentials. Gabriel studied the screen. That slows operations. By minutes. And prevents this. Exactly. He looked at her for several seconds. Do it. Ava raised an eyebrow. You are not going to argue. Would you like me to? No. Then do it. By the end of the week, every compromised shipment had been identified. Kessler's network lost access to the routes. Gabriel handled the rest in conversations Ava did not ask to hear. She had stopped pretending she did not know what his world contained. She simply refused to let it decide who she became. 2 weeks later, an email appeared in her inbox. Lakeshore Freight Solutions. Ava almost deleted it. Then she opened it. Brent Maddox had been terminated following an internal investigation. 3 other women had filed complaints after learning Ava had reported him. Ava read the message twice. Gabriel walked into her office. He saw her expression. What happened? She turned the screen. He read silently, then looked at her. Do you want me to do anything? Ava stared at him. Months earlier, he would not have asked. That difference mattered more than the answer. She closed the email. No. Gabriel nodded. All right. Ava looked toward the city. He is not my problem anymore. The words felt lighter than she expected. That Sunday, Gabriel went with her to Evanston. Emily was waiting in the rehabilitation gym when they arrived. She saw Gabriel first. Then she saw Ava beside him. Her eyebrows lifted. So you are Gabriel. Ava nearly dropped the coffee in her hand. Gabriel looked at her. What exactly have you told her? Nothing useful. Emily smiled. She told me enough. Gabriel held out the flowers he had brought. Emily accepted them. You look less terrifying than expected. Gabriel glanced at Ava. That is disappointing. Emily laughed. Ava watched him relax. Not completely. Gabriel Russo probably did not know how, but enough. Later, Emily stood between the parallel bars. A therapist remained close. Ava watched from across the room. One step, then another. Emily's knee trembled. She stopped. Breathed. Took another. Ava's eyes filled. Gabriel stood behind her. He said nothing. He did not interrupt the moment. Ava reached one hand backward. Gabriel took it. Emily reached the end of the bars. She turned. See? Her face was red from effort. I told you I would walk out of here. Ava laughed through her tears. No, I told you. Same family, same bad attitude. 3 weeks later, Gabriel placed another contract on Ava's desk. She stared at it. Should I be worried? Probably. Ava opened the folder. Her expression changed. Equity. Russo Apex Freight. a percentage large enough that she read it twice. She looked up. "You are making me a partner." Gabriel stood near the window. "You already are one." "In the company." "Yes." Ava closed the folder. "And the rest?" Silence. Gabriel walked toward her. He stopped across the desk. "The rest is not a contract I can put in front of you." "Why?" "Because that choice cannot belong to me." Ava watched him. Months ago he had paid Emily's bills without asking. He had believed protection gave him the right to decide. The man standing before her now waited. Ava walked toward the windows. Chicago stretched below. Beautiful, cold, complicated. Gabriel's world had never become less dangerous. She had simply learned where the danger lived. She turned. "I will not pretend you are someone you are not. I know. I will not be hidden when it is convenient. You will not be. And you never make another decision about my life without asking me." Gabriel's mouth curved. "I remember that rule." "Good." Ava returned to the desk. She picked up the pen, signed her name. Gabriel looked at the contract, then at her. "Is this the part where I'm allowed to kiss my business partner?" Ava smiled. "You are getting much better at asking." "Is that a yes?" She caught his shirt and pulled him closer. "That is a yes." 3 months later, Ava walked through the operations floor while managers moved around her. No one wondered why she was there anymore. Nobody looked toward Gabriel before answering her questions. They looked at her. She entered the main operations room. Gabriel stood beside the freight map. Ava studied the numbers. "Your Detroit route is bleeding money." Gabriel glanced at her. "Our Detroit route." Ava looked at him. "Then our Detroit route is bleeding money." He smiled. Outside clouds gathered over Chicago. A storm was coming. Months ago, Ava had survived by making herself smaller. Quiet enough not to anger Brent. Careful enough not to lose her job. Invisible enough to get through another day. Now an entire room waited when she spoke. Gabriel stood beside her. Not in front of her, not behind her. Beside her. His hand moved toward hers, then stopped. Even now he waited. Ava looked down. Slowly, deliberately, she threaded her fingers through his. She remembered a dark office. A filing cabinet against her back. A man who believed her silence meant permission. Then another man stepping out of the shadows. "Touch her again and I will bury you where no one will ever find you." Back then, Ava thought Gabriel Russo had saved her. She knew better now. He had opened a door. She was the one who chose to walk through it. And nobody would ever mistake her silence for surrender again.